Hallo zusammen, welcome to another edition of Feedback Freitag for German 102. So everything's up to date now. You had completed your second graded Anreise this past week. So if you make sure you look at the grades for that. They have been published. Again, I went in through GradeMark and made my changes and my recommendations and my feedback directly on what you submitted. So take a look at those, go through them in detail. Again, these are the things that are graded, right? So I want to make sure that you understand why you got the grade that you got. As well, of course, the town controller are graded now. And if you had not yet looked at your participation grade that was given to you this past Wednesday, look at that as well. Because we really are, I mean, that's the halfway point. We're more than halfway through the course now. So again, hopefully that rhythm really makes a lot of sense now. And you're starting to understand what we're looking for in your German course as well. So for the past week, there hasn't been really any particular thing that stood out to me to pay attention to. But one thing that did come up, certainly in the town controller today, and that you might see more often now, are these notions of reflexive verbs. And reflexive verbs being verbs that have, you'll see that kind of a sich in there, right? A verb like sich erinnern, or a verb like sich fühlen. So these are verbs that have a reflexive pronoun in them, and that reflexive pronoun needs to change and transform dependent on the subject, just like the verb itself is conjugated depending on the subject. So what does that mean? Well, if we look like a sentence, and this was in the town controller as well, so ich fühle mich hier wohl, and I believe in the sentence itself it might have used the wir, so wir fühlen uns hier wohl. You can see there that, okay, so A, we take the subject, either ich or wir, we conjugate the verb accordingly, so either ich fühle or wir fühlen, and then instead of just saying, yeah, ich fühle hier wohl or wir fühlen hier wohl, we need to take that sich and we have to modify that as well in accordance with the subject. So ich fühle mich hier wohl, wir fühlen uns hier wohl. So another element you have to kind of recognize now is, well, how do I take sich as part of my verb and then modify that for each possible subject, each possible pronoun, right? So again, I'm attaching, as usual, a PDF, PowerPoint slides here that kind of walk through what that looks like. Basically, what does that mean? Well, so ich would be mich, du would be dich, sie oder es, sich, wir uns, ihr euch, und sie, the formal sie, or the they, is sich as well. So you have to, again, kind of memorize what those are, and then work on putting them into your sentences when need be, when the verb requires the sich in there. And you'll know if it requires that reflexive pronoun if, when you look at the verb in its infinitive form, if it has a sich with it. If it is accompanied with sich, that doesn't mean that you just tag sich on the end of your sentence. It means that, okay, as a reflexive pronoun, I have to modify that pronoun to show that it's, yes, I'm the one doing it, or he's the one doing it, right? And then modify the sich accordingly. Okay, so that's the one thing I want to touch on this week. Otherwise, all the best with your Polizei controller coming up, and we'll keep going. Okay, cheers.